Welcome to Brute Facts. I have a great show tonight. A friend of mine, Dr. Josh Bowen. He is incredibly smart. He is incredibly nice and does by far the best Ken Hovind I have ever heard in my life. And we will not let him go until we get an impression out of him. Dr. Josh Bowen graduated from Johns Hopkins University with a PhD in Assyriology. How interesting is that? He also has a PhD from Liberty University, a bachelor's in religion. Nice. So, Dr. Josh is hanging out back. He's been scratching at the walls, trying to get out, and I've been kind of keeping him there and making sure that he's minding himself. And we're going to run our introduction, and then we'll bring him on.
Welcome to the Brute Facts Podcast with your host and everybody's favorite Christian, Eddie Kroom. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell for future content.
Hello, Dr. Josh. How are you doing? I think you are muted. Hey, there we go. Now, how are you doing? You freezing up on me, or you're doing pretty good.
Yeah, sorry, it's that dad humor.
It's too early for the jokes. We gotta get the serious stuff out of the way, and then we can get into the fun part. We only got about 2 minutes of serious stuff, so
Copy that.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So I don't have a PhD from Liberty, which I don't even know what that would look like. Just kidding. Sorry, that's not fair.
Yeah. I caught myself there, and I just ran.
I do have my bachelor's from Liberty though, so you can all hold that against me. Everybody, go ahead, hold it against me.
Yeah, fundamentalist, man.
Hey, I kept going with the master's in theology from Capital Bible Seminary, which is another pretty fundamentalist school.
Was it Calvinist?
But no. Okay. But I'll tell you, the funniest story I think was I had two professors. One was our systematic theology professor, and I can't remember his name for the life of me right now, which is terrible, but unsurprising. And then Thomas Edgar was our New Testament, like resident Greek scholar. And I remember sitting in one of his classes, we were going through Romans 9, and at the end of translating through it, he said, so clearly here you can see that, this does not necessitate any type of predestination. And like there was this silence. I guess people were writing down some notes or something, and you could hear the systematic theology professor through the wall saying, and so here in Romans 9, you can see very clearly that predestination is what Paul was teaching. It was really funny.
I love those arguments. Those are so fun. Yeah, really, they're not.
I put up a meme at some point this week, and I don't know if you watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine. But
I've seen it a few times. Yeah, it's pretty hilarious.
There's this scene where Amy Santiago, who's sort of the persnickety detective, has this rookie or this officer that's under her command who's giving all these ideas, and giving all these suggestions and just really getting under her skin. And she's telling everybody about it. And Rosa looks at her and says, "Oh, you got an Amy," which is, you got. So I put a meme up, right? I have Amy, talking, and it says, I've got this person who's, telling me all the answers and all the solutions to all these incredibly difficult problems. And Rosa says, "Oh, you got a first-year seminary student."
Oh, yes.
That's just so true.
That in first-year philosophy students. So being in philosophy, so I didn't have any philosophy classes. Well, I've done online classes, but not any college courses per se. And I'd heard the jokes about first-year philosophy students, and my wife's going to kill me, but she took a philosophy course when she was in college, and it was like everything I'd ever heard that it was. And I was just, I think I did half her work for her, but she just knew everything. It was like, I'm just like, you literally just scratched the surface. But that was fun times. So you got to be careful what you say to an Italian woman, because it's likely to come back physically. So. So have you always been a Christian?
So I was a Christian. I got saved 5-6 years old. Because I grew up in a fundamentalist evangelical household. Really, my grandfather was the biggest influence on me growing up. He was Southern Baptist, I think, ordained or licensed minister. But I mean, from as early as I can remember, we would play like these "Who Am I" games. And he would say, "All right, so I, walked around the walls of Jericho 7 times and then they fell down. Who am I?" And he would get really complicated as time went by. But, we did sword drills and, all the stuff that you would expect somebody to do in Sunday school. We did them seemingly all day, every day.
Yeah, sounds like he made it fun.
Yeah, he definitely did. And so, yeah, I was, I went to church growing up, went to Christian school, elementary, some of middle, maybe. But I was, it seemed like 3, 4, or 5 times a week I was in the church, particularly during high school. We had one of those power teams, if you're familiar with those. Yeah, the ministry, power team ministry, where you break the bricks and you bend the rebar and pop soda cans, rip phone books. But I was part of that. If you can believe that, this 6'2", 185-pound, rail of a guy is a power lifter.
A power lifter. Yeah, that's well, I don't know, man. Some of the strongest guys I knew were the skinniest ones. So
yeah, I was not one of them. I was not one of them.
My older brother, I've always been the bigger one out of it. Well, now he's tall and big, broad shoulders and everything. But growing up, I had the broad shoulders. He was skinny. And I swear he would toss me around like a rag doll. And it made me so mad because I worked for muscles and he didn't have any. And I swear he was twice as strong as I was. It was so frustrating. Andy was taller. Andy was older. And better looking.
Man. Come on.
Oh, it's therapy session. So what led you to atheism?
So I really focused, and given the type of school that I was in, we didn't really think about things like apologetics too terribly much, because it wasn't really even something to entertain. Because, and we didn't really focus in on things like ancient Near Eastern history, because we had the Bible, so we know what happened, that sort of attitude.
Yeah.
So that left the languages, right? If the word is inspired and inerrant, then you want to know it. So Greek, and then Hebrew, then Aramaic, then different dialects of Aramaic, then Syriac, then Ugaritic, then Akkadian. Like that's what we did. So I ended up sort of really diving in to biblical Hebrew during my time there. So much so that they had me, the last 2 years that I was there, they had me teaching other graduate students the full cycle of biblical Hebrew and exegetical principles.
Nice.
Which was good. But again, the point is that it was like everything that I did was focused on the text. So like I was reading unpointed Hebrew. It was yeah, anyway.
So you're like a real life expert.
I mean, there are people that are much, much better than I am in everything. I'm quite certain, but I could hold my own.
Yeah. So I got to know Assyriology. What inspired you, or what was it that was so captivating about? I assume Assyriology is study on the Assyrians.
Yeah, it's more broad than that now. Essentially, what it encompasses is studying the languages and cultures of the ancient Near East, but focusing in on Mesopotamia.
Okay.
So most Assyriologists will learn Sumerian and Akkadian. Those will be their two big languages. Depending on what you want to focus in on, some people will spend more of their time in Sumerian, the older stuff.
Yeah.
Others that want to work in particularly the late second millennium or the first millennium, maybe will spend more time with Akkadian. But I was more of a Sumerian guy. So, but yeah, what got me into that was that sort of good segue. Because I was so into wanting to understand the Old Testament in particular, I would always go to my professor, Mark Meyer, who graduated from Catholic University in the Semitics program. And I said, like, what's the best way for me to become this outstanding Old Testament scholar? And he said, well, you want to go learn Akkadian, essentially. And you want to learn Akkadian backwards and forwards. So I found this program at Johns Hopkins that was both close by and had a phenomenal, program for both Akkadian and Sumerian. And so I applied for it, and I'm shocked that it got in. I would have sooner expected to get accepted to NASA than to get accepted into Johns Hopkins University, but maybe they really needed people at that time. But that's that was the impetus. That was the I guess the initial motivation was I just really wanted to learn the Old Testament well. But when I got there and they started telling me more about Sumerian in particular, I was like, oh my gosh, this is genuinely fascinating on its own. And so like I dove headlong into it for its own sake.
Yeah, I have found what little reading I've done into, the ancient Sumerians, the Hammurabi codes, the looking at the the evolution of monotheism out of the Canaanites, and it just going back further and further and further, and just seeing all of these different ideas. Because the way that I explain, a lot of people are like, well, it was Elohim, and there was El, and there was this, and it doesn't surprise me because we talk in languages we're familiar with. We communicate, in ways that people, if I come up to you and just come up with a crazy God name, Fufala is God, you're going to be like, what? Now, if I'm tell you about this God given something you understand, well, then maybe you might start to understand. So, are a little bit more on the Akkadian, if you don't mind? Is it the same genetically? Is it not genetically through the bloodlines? Is it the same as the Akkadian people in Canada and the U.S., the ones they call Acadians? Is that like the same bloodlines, or do you know?
I am unfamiliar with that. I guess I would be surprised if anyone has an actual genetic link. It's certainly not my field.
Okay, yeah.
But there certainly are Assyrians today over in the Middle East that I identify as Assyrians, from that line. But I've never heard of that.
Yeah, that's actually the Acadian people in Louisiana are actually a recognized minority in the U.S., and they're the only Caucasian people that are a recognized minority. And there was, because they were so much different than those around them, and they had, so much prejudice against them. And then there's Acadian people in Canada, and I didn't know if it was they tied into the ancient Acadians. So when
now I have to go look, Eddie. I didn't have enough to do, and now I have to go look this stuff up. Thanks a lot, man.
I'm sorry. So the ancient Acadians, what time period are we talking? Because I haven't heard. Really, I mean, is it just a generic term for certain people, or?
So, sort of in broad strokes, during the late 4th millennium into the 3rd millennium, you have showing up in the record. The Sumerian language is the earliest written language that we have. And pretty quickly, though, in the 3rd millennium, you start to see another Semitic language start to come in. It's the Akkadian language. And it's a complicated time. 3rd millennium is very complicated. And people always ask the question, like, who are the Sumerians and who are the Akkadians? And where's the distinction between them? And that's a very tough question, one that I'm not even sure that we can answer. But certainly we have the old Akkadian empires, probably the best known from the 3rd millennium group of Akkadians. And these are like Sargon, if you've heard of Sargon of Akkad, Remush, Manishtushu, and then his grandson Naram Sin. These are all kings of the old Akkadian period. And they ruled, much of Mesopotamia. And as you come down into the early 2nd millennium, you have sort of this influx of Arameans, and again, that's also very complicated. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what to say about this. Akkadian sort of becomes the lingua franca, so you start to see a northern dialect of Akkadian, a southern dialect of Akkadian, but it's a Semitic language. I think I said the Arameans. Did I say the Arameans earlier? The Amorites is what I meant. The Amorites. The Arameans are later.
So the Akkadian were considered Semites. They were from.
Okay. Yeah, it's a Semitic language. So it's like, it's in the same family as Hebrew or Arabic or Aramaic. So, when you think about, particularly in the Old Testament, you start thinking about, the Neo-Assyrian Empire, with people like Sargon or Shalmaneser or Sennacherib. Esarhaddon comes up a lot, Ashurbanipal. Like, these are all kings of the Neo-Assyrian Empire that had a tremendous influence. Tiglath-Pileser III is a big one in the Bible. So he's, right in the middle of the 8th century, and he's the one that starts reasserting influence, and particularly over, the north and in Israel, over Samaria. So yeah, those are all, they speak Akkadian. Akkadian is their language. And of course, even when Nebuchadnezzar, like Nabopolassar and then Nebuchadnezzar, the Neo-Babylonian Empire, take over in like 610, when they defeat the Neo-Assyrian Empire, they're speaking Akkadian as well, but it's the Babylonian dialect. And so really that holds on for a while. But that's who we're talking about. It's sort of in between the Tigris and the Euphrates River, so parts of eastern Syria, but really all of modern day Iraq. And the cultures that developed
Persians
around there.
Before
Persians after, starting in 539. Okay. Yeah.
So
that's when they.
So through that venture, what did you find out about the Old Testament, as far as historical accuracy or lack thereof, or some of the practices, that obviously your newest book covers a lot of these things. And I do have the book, and I forgot to grab it before we started the show, and it's over there, and my headphones won't reach. So,
well, I tell you what, because my beloved wife insists, rightfully so, that I keep them within reach. There it is.
Yeah, there you go. Show them for a second that. Yeah. Look at that. I even hit the wrong button. Such a rookie, man. My goodness. So with this book, unfortunately, I have about 50 of them in front of it, but I have kind of skimmed through it, and it's extremely interesting because I actually hated history growing up. I didn't want to learn anything history, and now it's like the more that I learn, the less. The more that I learn, the more intrigued I am by it. And it's almost kind of like philosophy. It just kind of grabs you, because you can learn enough of it. Did you set out to be a historian?
No. So, the story that I always tell in this context is I had finished my last class teaching biblical Hebrew to the grad students. And as I was walking out, I had this, I had so many books that I would bring in, that I had this, it was like a tool. It was a rolling tool cart. It was, that big, and I would just stuff it full of books. It was like a suitcase that I could roll with a handle. And I'm rolling out with, I had so many books in there that I still have my BHS, my Hebrew text in my hand. And I was walking past the dean's desk, and at that satellite campus. Nice. And I said, he said, "So you got into Johns Hopkins? That's awesome." I said, "Oh, thank you." And he said, "So it's a pretty liberal school, Are you ready?" And I held up my Hebrew Bible, and I said, "I'm going into the lion's den, but I'm going to win souls for Christ." All right. So that was who I was, that to the core. And I meant that. Like, I wasn't going to be a dick about it or anything, but
right.
I was going to go and show these people the truth of Christianity. And when I got there, William Propp is an Old Testament scholar, brilliant Old Testament scholar, been around for a while. He's got this amazing 2-volume commentary on the book of Exodus, if anybody's interested in the Anchor Bible series, the Yale Anchor Bible series. But he has this lecture that he did 6-7 years ago on the Exodus, a paper that he read on the historicity of the Exodus. And at the end of it, he'd gone through and he'd talked about all the problems that are, with the biblical account. And he said, "Now I understand when my students come in to the first class that they have with me, I always sort of give them a warning. And I say, a flexible mind is an adapting mind. And he said, those of you that are able to flex with what I'm going to tell you over the course of this semester, you'll be able to maintain your faith. But if you can't, I'm probably going to hear about you later. And probably not in a good way from relatives or something. And that's how I was. I went in very inflexible because I was a fundamentalist evangelical. Right. And so everything.
Did you do it again? Or did you really freeze this time? Oh, I hope you didn't freeze. Are you messing with me? He's done this so many times and been really good at it that well, I don't think this time that I can tell you one thing. If he really didn't freeze and he's okay, he did freeze. Okay, thank you. So he is so good with his fake freezing that I don't know when it's really happening and really when it isn't. So everybody, okay, about the tie. So I had made a comment to Dr. Josh earlier that this tie was for Dr. Josh because he's special. And one thing that I've noticed with a lot of people on YouTube that do interviews is there's no sense of style. So I'm going to bring a little bit of style and try to spice it up a little bit here. So it's his internet crashed. So he's resetting the router. So I will go ahead and take this opportunity to say we have a massive show coming up, and it's including Dr. Josh. And I would have loved to include Dr. Josh in this announcement, but he's got cheap internet. He should have went for the higher tier, but I digress. So October 7th, it's 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. We have Dr. Richard Carrier, Dr. Josh Bowen, Doctor in Training, Pat Lowinger, or Lowinger. I got to ask him how to properly pronounce his name. So it's, they are all three going to do a 2-hour special on science in the ancient world. This was Pat's idea, and I pitched it to Dr. Carrier and pitched it to Dr. Josh, and they were stoked about it. Dr. Carrier has written about science in the ancient world, so he was totally stoked to be able to come on and talk about it. And the coolest thing about it is Pat even had the Society for Antiquarian Studies partially sponsored the show. So hopefully this will be something that gets shown maybe for educational purposes. I'm not sure. We'll have to see how that plays out. But I am very grateful for Pat coming up with the idea and being able to pitch these things and having Dr. Carrier on with Dr. Josh and Pat. I think it's going to be fantastic. My role is going to be totally minimal because Jim Majors is on Modern Day Debate. I'm gonna have to go back and watch that one. My role is going to be totally minimal because it's going to be a panel and it's going to be a 2-hour special, and I'm going to let the experts hash it out. So now I am just buying time for Dr. Josh Cheap Internet to get rebooted. Let's see. We also have, yes, October or August 19th, Inspiring Philosophy. Michael with Inspiring Philosophy is going to be on. And I have a few other guests in the lineup. I'm not sure yet on dates, but I'm trying to put together some pretty big shows with names, bigger names, together. And we're going to have to wait and see how that pans out. So, and I'm still waiting on Dr. Josh. Oh, Dr. Josh, I thought I heard him pop in, but I guess not. So, if you haven't gotten Dr. Josh's book, The Atheist Handbook to the Old Testament, what little I have read of it has been fantastic, and it's not what you think it is. I love the catchy title that he has, and I got the hardback version because I like to kind of roll in style. You never know when you need that extra weapon around. So, and looky here, Dr. Josh, just in time to save me. Man, oh man.
I don't know what's going on. I'm hoping it doesn't cut out again.
Well, I'm going to tell you, you really fooled me that time because I didn't know if it was you or the internet because you literally froze for like 2 minutes. And I'm like, I think he's just messing with me. I think it's
nope.
The longer it went, I was like, he's not messing with me. He's gone.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Like I just looked over and the router was just black.
So you have to get the higher tier internet. You can't get.
I have it, man. I got like, what is it, like a gig or something of download speed or so. I don't know what it is. We had a big storm yesterday, but all our stuff's underground. I don't know.
So I have no idea where we left off. So we're just going to jump on to the next topic.
Okay.
So you got into writing books. Why, I don't know, because that seems like a monumental task that I don't think that I could probably ever take on. So you wrote, was your first one, did the Old Testament endorse slavery? Was that the first one?
No. This was the first one.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know you wrote that. I'm going to have to So how come Amazon's like blackballing you? Because I didn't see it on there.
It should be up there.
Okay. I'll have to go search better next time.
It's funny because I'd spent 15 years in grad school and 8 of them, doing Sumerian, and I thought, this is stupid. Like I should write some sort of basic grammar, because the thing is, if you want to learn Greek, you want to learn Hebrew, there are lots of really good books out there that are meant for someone that doesn't know anything about the language. So you go pick up a Learn to Read Biblical Hebrew book, and they assume you know English, and that's about it. There wasn't really anything like that for Sumerian. I don't know if anybody's surprised by that or not, but there are amazing
Sumerian. Say it's not so.
Like there are amazing reference grammars, but it's like picking up the Chicago Manual of Style for an English speaker. It's really great, but it assumes you already know English. So Megan and I just said, well, we're just gonna write something. So I would get up at 4 a.m. and be out to Starbucks by 4:30. And before work, I'd sit there for an hour and I'd have a cup of coffee and I'd eat one of those sausage, cheddar, and egg, sandwiches, and I'd write this Sumerian grammar. And when we published it, I thought it was going to be like, this is cute. We have a book. Hooray. That thing sells pretty well, like surprisingly well.
Is it like textbook cost?
We did it at $29, I think.
Wow. Looky there.
But, like, I was responsible for writing most of the grammar portion, but Megan did all this kind of stuff.
Rock on. So she's an artist.
Yeah. So like she did a bunch of the exercises. Like she drew this. There it is.
Wow.
And the cool thing is, like, by the time you get done this book, because this is volume 1, there's a 3-volume set. I'm working on volume 2 now, but you can read that by the end. It's pretty cool.
Oh, wow. See, now you've got me. Now I got to read this one first before I can even go back and get those now. And I want to get the other ones. So it's my list of books are like,
I hear you.
I couldn't even print them out. It's, I think I have more books that I've only read chapters or parts of, and my Kindle.
It's the nature of the beast.
Yeah, I got a crazy Kindle list. I got a crazy Audible list. I got a crazy Apple Books list, and I'm just like, just focus on one, man. So tell me about the motivation for obviously I know the motivation, but for those who don't, does the Bible endorse slavery? I have not read that book. I should have read the book, but I haven't. So give us a little, high view of what to expect.
There was a video series that came out by Cosmic Skeptic a couple years ago now, probably 3 years ago now, about slavery in the Bible. And to that series, young guy by the name of What Do You Meme responded. And What Do You Meme is a Christian apologist. And he did a 3-part series essentially saying, no, Cosmic Skeptic doesn't know what he's talking about. Slavery isn't what he thinks it was, and it wasn't as bad as what he says it was, and so on and so forth. So somebody asked me about it. Hey, what's, because this, obviously, this comes up a lot. So I dug down into it and did a lot of reading. And if you go to my bookshelf, there's an entire shelf and a half dedicated to slavery in the Hebrew Bible, and some in the New Testament, but mostly in the Hebrew Bible in the ancient Near East. And so I put I think it's 3 video series together. I don't know, 3 is the magic number, I guess, for us all, but responding to What Do You Meme, responding to Cosmic Skeptic, who is actually responding to a guy by the name of Alan Parr, now that I think about it. So,
hey, What Do You Meme? That's John McCrae. That's a friend of mine.
That's right. Yeah.
I hope you were kind to him and took it easy.
Yeah, he wasn't quite so kind to me.
Really? I'm going to have to say something to John. That's not cool.
Yeah, somebody, I mean, it's fine. I don't get
I know
it's YouTube, but somebody, I guess, linked my video playlist to him and said, hey, have you watched this? And he said, I tried to, but I found it to be supremely boring.
Wow.
So hold on. You have to just let me share my screen so you can see my response. It won't take long.
Okay. Let's see.
Yes, here it is. Okay. So I don't know. I'm proud of it.
I'm trying to get it to show up, and it's
Let's
not
see.
letting me see it.
That's all right. Share screen, share audio. That one. Okay. There we go.
Oh, there we go. Okay. There we go. All right.
Hi, everybody. Dr. Josh here. And this is an exciting summary of my supremely boring video responses to What Do You Meme on the topic of slavery. It turns out if you don't do an exciting response, he's probably not going to watch it. So here we go. Buckle up. In video response number 1, he says, fuck it, I can't do this.
Oh, I'm probably going to hell for laughing at that, but that was funny nonetheless. John is a friend of mine. I love John. I can't believe he would say that about you. That's he just doesn't know the word. Yeah, he doesn't know the real Dr. Josh.
It's one of those things that not go have. After I did those videos, I ended up having a conversation with Michael Brown.
Dr. Michael Brown?
Yeah, on Modern Day Debate. James emailed me and said, "Hey, I've got somebody that would be interested in, having a discussion with you on the topic of slavery." And I said, "Well, I don't like to debate. If he wanted to have like a civil conversation, that'd be fine." Oh yeah. So then I agree. I agreed to it. And like a week before the discussion, he puts out this promo video, and it's like got this, really serious music, and it's got pictures of me, and it says "The Atheist," and then it's got pictures of Michael Brown preaching, and it's like the theist or the Christian. Did the Old Testament endorse slavery? Ding, ding, ding. And I was like, well, so, wow. But it was such a great discussion. I love Dr. Brown. He's super nice guy.
I was like totally into Dr. Brown, and then I found out he was a charismatic, and I was like, what a letdown.
But it was a really good discussion because he's got a PhD in ancient Near Eastern Hebrew Bible stuff.
Yeah,
and
he's a cultural Jew too, isn't he? I think he was Jewish and became a Christian, kind of like Messianic.
Yeah, I think he's a Messianic Jew. I'm not, but that's a good question. I'm not sure in particular, but
because I listened to a debate with him and a couple of rabbis, or one in particular. Man, that rabbi was so rude. But yeah, and then I found out it was charismatic, and I was like, oh, it was too good to be true. But I'm gonna have to find that. I'd love to see that conversation. He seems like a really
it was cool. Great. He came into the stream backstage, and I said, "Hey, Dr. Brown, nice to meet you." And he said, "Hey, Dr. Josh, nice to meet you." So, what are we talking about? That's which fit perfectly. So
that's typical Dr. Brown, man. Dadgum charismatics, man. I'm telling you. So I want to say that you writing these books, dealing with twins, and a Christian wife as an atheist, and you have to deal with MS on top of all that. How does the MS affect you as far as trying to write the books and really, because if I'm not mistaken, it causes cognitive issues. My wife also has she has a autoimmune disease that it causes clouded mind and foggy brain and things. So I've seen with her, just general everyday things can be a struggle at times. Is it that? I mean, is it that severe that it really kind of hinders trying to think through these things?
Yeah, I'm on a fair amount of medication to try to control a lot of this stuff. So I take stuff for my memory and for my cognitive processes. Once a day I take but probably a bigger part of it. I mean, that's pretty big, but another big part is the MS causes clinical depression. So I'm on. It screws with things neurologically.
Yeah.
So I take stuff for that. Does other stuff, but anyway. So yeah, I mean, it's okay. I've become kind of accustomed to. I've learned when I can do things and when I can't do things. Usually, first thing in the morning is when I'm kind of raring to go. It's been difficult more recently with the twins, but I still try to find time in the evenings, but it's harder. But yeah, I mean, it's there. I had a professor, Ted Lewis, who just published his magnum opus last year. It's a 1,020-page book or something on Israelite religion. And he said, just write a little bit a day, write a little bit every day, write a little bit every day. So that's what I do.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm good.
No, I was going to say, is it a progressive, degenerative kind of disease that it just gets worse and worse and there's not any better or stagnant?
There are two types of MS. I always forget what they're called. There's relapse. No, okay, I got it. Relapsing, remitting, and then I think primary progressive. But the one that oftentimes people start off with, and I'm still in this stage, I think, is that you have an episode and it gets worse, and then after several weeks, it comes back down. Mine doesn't come all the way back down, but it comes down reasonably far. And then some time goes by and you have another one, and then it comes back down, and so on and so forth. But the point is that it generally comes back down.
The depression part of it.
Yeah, that's pretty constant. There are aspects of it that are kind of constant. My left arm is kind of tingly all the time, but it gets worse. But like my left eye, I'm technically blind in my left eye, but it can still get worse when I have an episode. But like if I do this, I've got my contacts in, and like everything's fuzzy. But probably what will happen is as the years go by, it starts to develop into, I think it's called secondary progressive. And it just means when they go back up, they don't come back down, they stop and they go along there, and then it goes up again and gets worse. But I mean, yeah, we'll take that when it comes.
That's the depression part. I suffered from depression. I have pretty severe ADHD that's led to anxiety and depression, and it's a constant battle. Having to take medication to be able to sit still, not talk too much, things like that. I can relate on the depression level. It is nothing to play with. It is nothing I would wish upon my enemy. And I'm really heartbroken to hear that that's a part that you have to deal with, because, a lot of times I've seen you in different streams and things like that, and I joke around as, Christian approved. But you're such a humble person, and I admire humility. And then to find out that on top of all of this humility, you suffer from what you suffer from. My ADHD is just something I got to live with. It's not progressive. It's not, I don't have to worry about one day, being in a state where I just can't function properly anymore. And I just want you to know, I mean it from the bottom of my heart. I have all the respect in the world for you, and I think you're an incredible human being.
I really appreciate that. It's very, very generous. hope I can live up to it.
You already have. It's
I appreciate that.
I was drawn to you the first time I saw you, and it wasn't because of the Ken Hovind impression either. Although that is very, very, very good.
Well, let me tell you something.
That's
I'm glad that I wore my Hawaiian shirt today. Okay.
Yeah. Let's get the sweat off my eyes. Oh, come on.
Yeah, let's just take a second and go back. Okay. So here down here at Dinosaur Adventureland, you can just call me Dr. Dino. And one of the things that we like to do, Eddie, is we like to talk about evolution and how evolution is the dumbest religion that people have propagated upon our youth. Okay. And, I'm fine with you having your religion, your beliefs. But the thing is, when you start to try to make taxpayers pay for that in the schools, well, I think that's wrong. So if you get part 17 of my 57-part creation series, well, you can see there's 7 types of evolution. There's Big Bang evolution. There's cosmological evolution. The evolution of my car. So when the water rains down on the otters, okay, I'm here to help.
Okay. I was trying not to go full blown laughter, but it's just, I mean, he ought to pay you for as well as you do him.
I just really hope, I always think this when I do those. I hope one day, like if he sees this one day, he knows this is all in good fun. I'm just kidding.
But you forgot. You forgot. So we got the Trinity of Trinities, and we got the God and the Father. And yeah, I'm not near as good, but it's he is definitely something else. I remember the first time I saw him, and he just pops out. It's like a school gym. He's like, we have the Trinities of Trinities, and he just goes on, and I'm like, who is this guy?
What is this guy talking about?
Where did he come from? At first, being a young Christian at the time, I was like, wow, listen to this guy go. And then I'm like, whoa, he just totally crapped on evolution. It's like, wait a minute, halt the brakes. Let's back up a little bit. Yeah, that whole young earth creation thing. I love you guys who are young earth creationists, but I hate your.
I mean, I was one.
I was too. That's why that's crazy. It's, us folk that were at one time probably have the least patience for those that are. And it's really not fair because we had the same cognitive dissonance because
I didn't think that I did because,
oh, yes, you did.
I mean, no, first, I never really looked into it because I didn't think it was important.
Yeah, I didn't.
It was sort of the same thing as with history, right? Like, who cares? Like, I could hold my Bible up and say I know what happened. So, I didn't have to look into science because I can just hold my Bible up and say, look, I know what happened. So, but when people would ask me, how can the earth look so old, or how can we have like starlight or whatever? My response, which this I think is in some ways the danger of certain types of apologetics, is that it gives you a possibility. And as long as you've got that possibility, you don't need to look any further. My possibility, the thing that I just hung on to, was that, well, how in the Garden of Eden, how old did Adam look? Right? He didn't look like he was 4 seconds old. When he looked like he was in his 30s. So God created him. Huh?
Did he have a belly button?
Yeah. Did trees have rings? I mean, I would say yes, right? If you cut them down, because God created with apparent age. And if God created with apparent age, well, I mean, he can create stars that look older. He can create the earth that looks older. I mean, why not? And that was enough for me.
But the thing is with that line of reasoning, though, and this is where what got me out of that line of reasoning was, so are you familiar with Hank Hanegraaff?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Hank Hanegraaff,
Bible Answer Man.
Yeah, and he is one of the most charitable Christians alive. I wish everybody would approach people and other believers the way that he does. I mean, even if you disagree with the man, he was just so loving and charitable in the way that he did it. And it kind of that's what kept me. I listened to him because I disagreed with him. And he brought up, I think it was 1986, 87 supernova A. And it was like 160,000 light years away. And we viewed it in the 1980s. And it took 160,000 light years, 160,000 years at the speed of light to get to Earth for us to actually view that event. And I'm like, well, that kind of blows away the whole 6,000 to 10,000 years. And so then you're stuck with the appearance of age. Well, then that makes God a deceiver, because the Bible says to look to the heavens and his creation for his majesty. Yeah. And if it looks old, but it really isn't, then he's deceiving us. And it makes a worse conundrum. How do we know we weren't created 5 minutes ago with all these things? So you start playing these philosophical games with this, and it's like, it's just no reason to hold on to it. It's because it only affects a certain interpretation.
Yes.
It doesn't affect the veracity of Scripture. Only a literal interpretation is all that it affects. So I'll get off my soapbox, but
no, I think that's a good way to say it.
And I'm not I don't, for anybody who listens to me, when I talk about religious things, I consider myself a philosopher, a terrible one, but a philosopher. And apologetics are a part of theology. I don't do apologetics. And if you hear somebody defending their position and they happen to believe in a God or something like that, it doesn't necessarily mean they're an apologist. I believe we all should be able to, defend our positions. But unlike a lot of apologists, I'm willing to hear and possibly change my position.
Yeah, this is one of these things that I put out a tweet a couple weeks ago, and I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was something about Christian apologetics. And this whole debate came up, like, oh, well, everybody's an apologist because everybody defends something. And it always makes me think of that Venn diagram, right, where the two circles come together. I think that's what a Venn diagram is. And there, with words and language, there's certain, aspects of words where meanings can come together in this polysemous fashion, and they link up at certain points. But that doesn't mean that all aspects of that word carry over to both circles. So when people say a Christian apologist today, which is why I followed up the tweet with, how would you define a Christian apologist?
Right.
And I think the difference for me is, like, when I put my dissertation, when I wrote my dissertation, it was on how these specific Sumerian texts were used. By the way, if you want to read about it, that's the other book that I wrote as a publication of my dissertation.
My homework is so terrible.
No, it's fine.
Thanks, Dr. Josh.
Sorry. But that one, like, I have a sort of nuanced idea of how these tablets were used, right? But it's because I wrote my dissertation on it. The whole point of writing it is to come up with something new, right?
All right.
But, and I had to do an edition. I had to do like a translation of this tablet that nobody had translated, and I had to do commentary on it. So when I went to my dissertation defense, I sat in front of all these other professors. I had to defend my position. But that doesn't mean that if somebody wrote an article, like if Pascal Adinger, who's a big Assyriologist down in Switzerland, if he were to write an article, first of all, I'd be so excited if he wrote an article about my dissertation. But if he did,
please do it.
Like, I would be reading it excitedly, and I wouldn't think to myself, oh, I'm losing something if I'm wrong. I think that's the difference. I don't feel like there's something else that's behind my defense other than just my position on that particular topic. I feel like in a sense, Christian apologetics is often based on, you've got this other conclusion, this other position that you hold to. And some of its ramifications, some of the effects of that trickle out into these other theological or, linguistic or historic or whatever issues. And so you go out to defend them, really defending this bigger thing behind you. That's sort of the thing that you're really holding on to. So as you said, if you're a fundamentalist evangelical like I was, the historicity of the Exodus is quite huge, right?
Yeah.
So somebody comes up and says, "Oh no, we don't have a 15th century Exodus of 2.5 million people from Egypt." Well, it's not that I care so much about that. It's what I care about is if that's not historically reliable, then the text isn't inspired and inerrant, and therefore my entire belief structure, this thing back here, falls apart. So now I'm going out to defend the Exodus, really to defend this core belief. And that's what I have a problem with. And I think that's how most people view Christian apologists.
Yeah.
And just in general. So
yeah, there's, I have a lot of friends who are apologists, and nothing against them. They feel that's what they're called to, defend the faith and defend it the way they do, and more power to them. That's just not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
I was there, and I wanted to know what was true. I didn't want to go in ready to just defend. And I did for a long time. I did do the defend. And then, I was like, wait a minute, I'm parroting all these things. I've already changed my position a couple of times. And, it's like, how about I just shut up, listen to other people, and mold a worldview that's actually coherent and consistent. And that's what I kind of set out to do. So going from that to first, there was actually a question here that I think that you need to address.
Am I obfuscating?
Yeah. No.
Prevaricating.
Yes. Where is it at? It was a pretty good question before we move on to the next.
Oh, in the side chat.
Oh, yeah. Here we go.
Okay.
Spartan Theology wants to know, how do you justify the metaphysical grounding of the transubstantial elements of reality?
Well, Spartan, I don't know that if we consider how the transcendental I think that if we think about the Big Bang event, we can not consider this to be something that can ground all of our existence. How would you do that, Spartan? I gotta work on it.
Hey, that's not bad at all. So I had to give away our big announcement while you were gone to fill time.
Okay.
So I kind of wanted to do it with you, but you left me for a little while.
Sorry.
And yeah, I know.
When I left, did you leave every light in the house on? Was the backyard right as the back of dawn? Crack of dawn?
Yes, it absolutely was. Was that Toby Keith? That's I
don't remember.
Is it? I think it's old.
I could
Toby
sing
Keith.
it, but I don't remember who sang it.
It is. That's old Toby Keith. That's before 9/11, before he turned into "I'm gonna kick your ass" and Uncle Sam's gonna whip you up and down. And yeah, that was the "That Ain't My Truck" Toby Keith when he was singing about all the country stuff. Yeah. So I did want to cover digital Hammurabi. What is digital Hammurabi? the website, the
Hmm.
organization, the people?
Yeah.
What is it?
So I would say at this stage of the game, Megan does all the work. I mean, at first I was able to contribute a lot more, but I don't have the time to do it any longer. But she does obviously a phenomenal job, which I probably didn't need to say any of that, but I think it needs to be important. So that was a funny stream. So Digital Hammurabi's goal, its purpose, is to try to make the ancient Near East, which includes the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, understandable, more palatable to interested non-specialists, so people that haven't had the luxury of going and getting advanced degrees in this stuff, but they want to understand the ancient Near East and the Hebrew Bible. How do they do that? That's what the channel does. Now, Megan so we have tons of videos on the channel that are, breaking down the ancient world, the ancient Near East in general, ancient Mesopotamia. Of course, we have lots of stuff on the Old Testament. We always bring in scholars that are, experts in the field and get them to talk about the newest research that they're doing or to address a really important topic. So we had John Collins come on about a year ago, I guess, maybe a little less, to talk about genocide in the Old Testament, because that was a really big topic. We've had Joel Baden come on and talk, who's an expert in the documentary Hypothesis, and talk about, that particular topic, the formation of the Pentateuch. We had recently the Ancient Near Eastern Hebrew Bible law specialist, Bruce Wells, come on, and actually he talked about this new book that he's writing on the Garden of Eden story and what it's pulling from in its Neo-Babylonian background. So we, lots of different topics like that.
Yeah, I figured you could explain it a lot better than I could. So,
well, the other aspect to this is we wanted to make it. I think the overall goal of the channel is to get more people going into formal education in these areas. So I feel like stage one is just getting intelligent, but maybe, intelligent, interested, or maybe not. I don't know, people interested in the topic. And so that's sort of what the channel does. But hopefully that then funnels people toward these universities to get, humanities built up a little bit more, because I think it is a valuable, thing. So then the other part of the channel is supporting people who are already there in the process. So PhD students are poor for the most part. They don't make money during the summers. And so we have this scholarship program that Megan runs, and it's completely crowdfunded. She's actually created a nonprofit organization called HAPS, Humans Against Poor Scholarship. And we have regular donors that give, and we offer individual $2,000 scholarships to PhD students. And in order to get one of these scholarships, they come on and they do a 30-minute interview with us or with one of the board members of HAPS. And they just talk about what they're doing. They talk about their research, what they want to use the money for during the summer. And then everybody that donates gets a vote as to who gets the money. So it's crowdfunded and it's crowd driven.
Nice.
So I think she was able to, we raised enough to give 4 scholarships away this year. I think 3 or 4, I can't remember. But she just started, I think it's called Black Scholars Matter. And
that's awesome.
It's for, I think it's geared towards seniors. I'll have to ask her about the specifics, but seniors who are graduating but are going into a PhD program in Ancient Near Eastern Studies, Egyptology, Assyriology, archaeology, whatever. And one of the hardest things to do for anybody, but especially somebody of color, is to network, to get in with scholars that are already established in the field. Well, there are annual conferences that we all have every year. And what we do is we pay for them to fly out. We pay their membership to the organization, pay their membership fee, pay for room while they're out there, pay give them a meal stipend, and we set them up with an established scholar who volunteers to take them essentially by the hand and walk them around and introduce them to scholars in the field. Say, hey, this is Jim. This is what he's interested in doing, or this is Susie. This is what she's interested in doing, whatever. And so that they get that immediate facial recognition. People know who they are. They know who they are. I think it's really going to help, establish Black scholars in the field, because there just aren't as many.
Absolutely. I think that is, I applaud you guys on that effort. That is fantastic. I mean, that is, that's a part of our, that's, a lot of people act like it's some kind of sore subject that we can't talk about. I grew up in a very poor neighborhood, and I saw firsthand people that were treated different from me because of skin color. So for people that live inside this bubble, who doesn't think that, there's not a harder hill to climb for some people, is absolutely, it's just being oblivious to what's really going on in reality. And the fact of the matter is that we still have, we have such a long road ahead and a lot to do. We have made strides, but we're nowhere near where we should be. And as a country, and I applaud you guys on that. That is a fantastic venture to be spearheading. So,
well, we wanted to give a scholarship this year, and I think it was probably back early in the spring that she thought about it. So we put the initial $2,000 into it to do it, but that, starting next year, I think that's also going to be part of the, other than us funding it, crowdfunding.
So
it'll feed into it.
Is there somewhere on the website where people can give?
There is on digitalhammurabi.com. There's a section of the website. I don't remember where it is. Actually, probably somebody like Iron Charioteer or Big Zebra or something could probably link it. Or
absolutely. Because I would love to be a part of that, and anybody that's listening to this, this is a fantastic cause, and there's no reason not to give to something like this.
If you want to see how it works, she puts, obviously we record all the interviews, and they're saved in a playlist on the YouTube channel. The neat thing about it, and it's the last thing I'll say about it, but she's going to be, Megan's going to be really excited that I talked it up like this. So thank you for letting me do it.
No, absolutely. My show is your show. Whoops, there's a microphone there.
The neat thing about it is PhD students will often get so focused on their research that they kind of stay in their own head, and they can't give an elevator speech terribly well. Like this book that I wrote, that published my dissertation, it took some doing to rework it so that it would be interesting to somebody that's not an Assyriologist. And I remember, I've seen professors that really needed a healthy dose of doing something like this on YouTube. So what it does when a candidate comes on, they have to get the people that are watching to vote for them. I mean, that's how it works. So if they come out and they're like, well, let me tell you about, the the Sumerian liturgical texts from the old Babylonian city of Kish, and they're written unorthographically, which if you think about how the CVCV syllables work, like, everybody's going to go, oh, he seems really nice, but probably not going to vote for that person, right? Because it's not really moving you. So it teaches PhD students to come in and to think through, how do I make my work accessible to other people? Because while it's great for a scholarship like this, when they start writing grants, trying to apply for other grants or applying for a new job, and they have to go, give a presentation to faculty and students in a department that aren't all going to be Assyriologists from the early second millennium. They're archaeologists, they're Egyptologists. They don't know all the stuff. They've got to be able to make that stuff palatable and exciting. So I think it works on that level as well. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Absolutely. There's definitely, I mean, that's something to be excited about. We my wife and I, and a few of the more philosophical kind of Christians that I have up here, that I've actually met online that are not far from me. We've been looking for, some kind of outreach ourselves, seeing how we can kind of help given the current environment and, the way things are going on. So I usually try to keep it around an hour. We've gone 20 minutes.
Gosh. Sorry.
No, hey, no, man, it's fantastic. We'll go all night long if you want to. But you did cut out for a minute there, so you gotta. No, I'm just playing. We do. There are a couple of questions from some of your biggest fans that you probably already answered before, but because they're your biggest fans. So I want to make sure I want to make sure I didn't miss anybody. Let's see. Thank you, Soren. This is an amazing talk. I feel good. Thank you. And Iron said, this is such a amazing chat. Yes, it was amazing chat. I'm trying to listen to Dr. Josh and watching the freaking thing fly at the same time. So that is a good thing. Here we go. When are you going to role play with them? I've already put that one.
No, but that was a funny stream because
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, it was on. Was it on Nathan's channel? I think it was on Nathan's channel. And I came in, and they were already doing it. They had switched. So Otangelo was the the atheist.
Atheist,
and we were all trying to be Christians. It was pretty funny.
So
he did a pretty good job.
So I like Otangelo in his own right. Somebody's claiming my wife dressed me. I taught my wife about style. How do you like that? No, I'm just playing. She didn't dress me, but she got style. Do you think philosophy is important when it comes to deciding which faith to choose?
I mean, everybody knows what I'm going to say. Philosophy is not my field. So I don't know that I'm qualified to make any type of informed comment on that. I guess what I would say is I've never gotten far enough to think at this stage in my life. I haven't gotten far enough to think about these types of philosophical arguments for a deity. Where I am is I'm looking at the major religions, obviously focusing on Christianity because that's my background and that's what I see all the time. And thinking, I don't see any good reason. Well, I see lots of reasons why the type of religion that I was raised in and what I see many people engaging in, that type of Christianity is incorrect or severely flawed. And I don't, so then getting back to like bigger picture about a God in general, for me, I haven't seen any, I guess this is pretty standard type of language, but I haven't seen any reason to think that a God would be necessary with the reality that I see. But I I would consider myself an atheist because I don't believe in a God. If you ask me, is there a God? I would say I don't think so. But I don't know that I care a lot. That sounds terrible.
No. That's twice I hit that thing. Keeps jumping out in front of me. No, there's actually a position called atheist, and that is, and I've actually kind of at times found myself in the same position. I just, given the things that I'd gone through and how distant God felt from me, I was like, I don't even know if I care, and I work with a couple of guys that just flat out tell you, I don't care. I don't know if there is. I don't know if there isn't. I don't care. It's atheism. Nothing wrong with that. At least it's a pretty honest position anyway. So Iron is just lighting them up for you. He's giving you, he or she, I did it again, is giving you the hard question. So
yeah, I mean, I think if it's a serious question, I think it is. I think the key and it's just my experience, completely anecdotal, but I think that people do what they want to do, and they do oftentimes what they want to do in this regard is what makes them the most money. So that's where their values are. And I get that. Like, I think it's part of life as we see it, particularly when there's uncertainty and, we don't live in a society that is trying to keep things level for everybody.
Right.
Looking out for oneself and one's family is, is very natural. But I think that when the overriding value in life is I'm so interested in this particular topic, or engaging in this particular type of research, or trying to get at this type of understanding, when that overrides the motivation for accumulating a lot of wealth, I think that's when you start seeing people go into the humanities in particular. And I don't know about the sciences necessarily, but so that's sort of what we're doing with the channel, is just trying to say, this is really interesting stuff. There aren't enough people doing it. There's particularly in things like Assyriology, like there are at least 500,000 tablets.
Wow.
Like many of them are just the original. They're not. Yeah, they're not copies of tablets.
Y'all need manpower.
Yeah, I mean, like my dissertation, I translated through a lot of tablets that nobody's translated through.
Wow, that is awesome. I do. So, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No.
No, I was going to say, I just wanted to read the question for the podcast later on.
So yeah, sure.
They know. I just dropped right in and said, here, answer this, and didn't even think about it. The question was, how do we encourage more people to appreciate the sciences instead of ending up on Wall Street? I think money people are going to go after money, and science people are going to go after science. That would be my answer. But they asked you.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that a lot of times, again, just in my experience, but it does seem like it becomes a default position to just make a lot of money if you haven't found something else that you're really interested in. And I know for me, my life really focused in on, all right, well, I'm a bum getting out of high school with a 2.495 GPA. So
you finished high school?
Yeah. Shoes? Like, you had shoes?
You're getting way better than I am.
But once I learned oh my God, like I'm not bad at languages, ancient languages, but that's pretty cool. Then it was, I mean, I was really interested. And so that became an overriding factor for me. So.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So, Germania. What's one thing he wishes Christians would understand concerning their Bible? It's not inerrant. It's not infallible. There, I'll answer it for him.
Yeah. No, and I think that's a good answer. Inspiration. I mean, while I don't think that any ancient text is divinely inspired,
right,
that it doesn't need to be infallible, inerrant, in order for it to be inspired. I think that's a notion that we pull from the text. It's a theological conclusion that we pull. And I just don't think it's necessary for you to maintain your Christian faith in the same way that, if God decided to use Moby Dick to, teach me a moral lesson, right? Moby Dick doesn't have to be inerrant. I don't have to go looking down to every fragment of the sentence to make sure that it's completely correct in every way, in order to gain that moral understanding. And so, I also don't think that we necessarily have to hold on to authorial intent as the most important feature for interpretation. And what I mean by that is, I think there's a lot of value in reader response. If you hold to that book being divinely inspired, and God can use it, then I think that God can use it however he damn well sees fit. And so, people like to get on Sunday school teachers, for, or Bible study, leaders of Bible studies. All right, open up your book to Matthew chapter 6 and let's read these verses. All right. So what does that say to you? How does that make you feel? Oh, you're not getting at authorial intent. You're not getting it. Well, I mean, I think those are very important questions, obviously. But I don't think that they need to be the most important features. And I think that, because what I see, and this is the last thing I'll say because I'm waxing on, but we have an ethical,
on, wax off.
There are certain ethical, not that it's my field, but we have an ethical system in general that we've established. And I think that this type of reader response theory, or practice of reader response interpretation, can make subtle changes to, but more reinforce the good moral system that we recognize and motivate us to do better. This is what I see at the the Episcopal church that we go to. The gospel readings, or the readings in the Old Testament, they're not meant to get you to change the way you think about your morality. What they're meant to do is to encourage you to go practice the morality that you have, the ethical system that you already have. So that means that they can read through passages like Deuteronomy 15 and it talk about what to do with the release of an Israelite slave after 6 years, and focus in on, look, it says that you're supposed to give sacrificially to the slave that you've had for those 6 years. So God's going to support them if they do that. Well, how can we give to people that are less fortunate, trusting that God will take care of us if we do?
Yeah.
I mean, boom, you don't have to wrestle with, is it okay to have slaves? No, of course it's not okay to have slaves. What are you talking about? Just forget that. That's not the point, right? And so I think there's real value in that. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
No, I absolutely love your 2 cents. And we'll close out with this last question, if I can find it again, because it was a good one. Where's it at? Oh, there we go. BigZebra.com. Which of the Christian faiths had the best bake sales? It's Southern Baptist, hands down.
You think so?
You can't even compete with Southern Baptist.
See, I think the Amish.
Oh, darn! I forgot about the Amish.
And I think the Amish probably have it.
Yeah, but the thing is, most Amish don't sell to the public. They sell to.
They do. Store. Well, I mean, around here they definitely do.
Well, a lot of them sell to a store that sells to the public, or it'll say Amish store that's not actually run by Amish.
I tell you, we have auctions.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
we have auctions Amish. Around here. Like we have auctions. Megan loves. I mean, I wish it's one of the reasons I hate COVID is like we don't get to go to these auctions anymore, and not necessarily because we want to get something, but it's just so cool to go there and to get. It's usually in the fall or early winter, so it's cold out, so you get yourself a nice hot breakfast sandwich, a cup of coffee. Of course, she's drinking tea, so we have to bring that from home, but. Man, they've got all this stuff out there that all these baked goods that they've made. And then of course a lot of the Amish are there to use tools. Right. So it's anyway, that's probably more than what I needed to answer for that question. But
and I lied. That's not the last one because, Spartan Theology's trying to ring me a new one because I didn't ask his. But he's only asked like 5. Thanks, Ethan. But
you can't trust that guy.
I'm telling you, man. But his is a zinger. Can Dr. Josh admit already that he's not a Christian because he wanted to sin?
Look, here's the thing. I saw this really cute girl, right? And I was like, well, right. And then it turns out turns out that she was a Christian.
Oh,
just my luck.
I know it. We didn't even get to the part of you living with a Christian. That's
I know.
We're going to save that one for a part 2.
Yeah, sounds good.
But we are at the 1:35 mark. Man, this is the longest show I've done in a while. Yeah. I feel like I
just need to learn to talk faster, Eddie. That's all it is. I just talk so
no, the crown's wearing off, so it's time to pour some more. I'm going to see everybody out here. I will see you in the backstage if you got a minute to hang around. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. This is Dr. Josh. As humble as he always is such a nice man. And you got to watch him, though. He's got things up his sleeve. I know that for sure. As usual, I want to thank, and not as usual, because I don't want it to sound mundane. I want to thank Pasta Mike with Normalizing Atheism for all of the logos, all the artwork, all of the introduction, the cutaways, everything. That's all him, not me. I wish I could do that kind of work, but I can't. Check him out over at Normalizing Atheism on YouTube. And also he has a Facebook group if you want to go in there and talk about atheism or theism. Maybe it's a tough crowd there. So thank you everybody for showing up, especially for last minute. We had a fantastic crowd. I am very thankful. Anybody who's a regular, I would ask that maybe you would consider giving to the Patreon just enough to cover show costs. I'm not in this to make money. However, it does get pretty expensive. So I am trying to get enough to at least cover some of the show cost, if not all the show cost eventually. But thank you everyone again. Have a good evening.